Hey everybody, this is Panera here, and we're going to do a solo Heart of the Swarm episode, I guess, because I know I've been pretty neglectful since the expansion came out, and then as soon as I tried to get back on track, River moved to the middle of nowhere in Florida, which is really cool because she keeps texting me pictures of all these mantises and other insects that are totally badass. So I mean, there is some benefit there, but and I've also been really busy trying to plan an event as well. The first live Anatomy of StarCraft will be held at a barcraft here in Calgary, Kaylee's South, I believe it's at some point during the day. And I'm not sure what we're going to be talking about, but it'll be a lot of fun, and hopefully we get to stream it. If not, it'll be recorded, and then you guys can all flip out about it. So this episode is going to be focusing on the two different types of Zergling that you can make in campaign. I know a lot of people really like the game because of the competitive nature, but there is a lot to the campaign itself, whether good or bad, that we can actually check out and criticize Blizzard for either being awesome or being full-blown retard. So let me just select my little drawing tool here. Let's do red. Alright, sweet. Okay, so this is the Swarmling, which instead of spawning 2 Zerglings, you get 3 for the price of 50 minerals, which is pretty sweet. I mean, it allows you, especially when you abuse it with Kerrigan's her ability to reconstitute Zerglings or whatever, it gets out of control pretty quickly. But we're going to talk a lot about the actual morphology here, because there's some funky stuff going on here. So basically it's a pretty typical Zergling looking head, and we actually get some fantastic close-ups of that Zergling that has the broken claw. So we'll be talking about that more in the future, but for now we're going to just focus on this Swarmling. So we've got this I want to call it a sail. Think back to, I guess if you've seen Jurassic Park 3, that train wreck of a movie, something called Spinosaurus. Probably a better example would be the Pelycosaurs, things like Dimetrodon, something that's often mistaken for a dinosaur, but it's not. It's actually a synapsid, which is sort of on a little detour on the way to when mammals were evolving. So basically the function of the sail in those creatures is assumed to be either sexual display or potentially for thermoregulation, probably more so on the side of the more primitive Dimetrodon compared with Spinosaurus. It would probably be for heating up in the morning, and then if they're too hot, they turn their sail and flood the flesh around these spikes here, these extensions of the neural process on the vertebra, so that it can dissipate heat really easy. And it's a really cool system. Unfortunately for the Zergling, I'm not too sure why this is linked with the Swarmling itself. What does this signify? It looks like a giant sail, so we can call them sailings, I guess. But why is it that this structure here was added when, if you just say cut it off, just remove this whole fucking thing. I don't want to cut off the claw there, but whatever. Just remove this piece of shit, right? And then you've got basically a Zergling, but you can still make 3 at a time, right? Now, of course, you can stylize it a little bit however you want, but why the fuck is this here? I mean, in a way, it could make sense in regards to something like the metabolic boost, because obviously, if you allow them to heat up their body temperature rather rapidly, they'll be able to sort of zoom around the map a lot quicker. But I mean, that comes with those wings that we talked about in previous episodes that come off the Zergling wings that come up like that. You know what I mean. Anyway, they're present here on the Raptorling. Those aren't really used for flight, even though the in-game model, when they run, they actually do have a little gliding animation or whatever. But they're probably mostly for, similar to how a dragonfly would would use their wings to heat up. If they're too hot, they position their wings and body in a certain way called obelisking, which allows them to cool down. Or they simply spread their wings in an outward fashion, creating surface area and heating up that way. But I mean, just given the way that Zerglings move and things like that, it's very, very likely that they're warm-blooded instead of something like a polycotherm or something like that, or whatever that word, whatever. Cold-blooded, basically, we'll say. Like I've got a tortoise in my house, for example, and a cat. The tortoise, when he wakes up, usually hobbles over to the heat lamp, has a sit down and heats up, and then goes about his tortoise way. Whereas my cat, as soon as he wakes up, he's ready to start pushing shit off of shelves and be a total dick. So it really makes a big difference, and I don't ever see the Zergling being sluggish. Like ever. Even before they get their speed boost, they're pretty active little creatures, especially like when you're using them to scout and stuff. You can just see that they're more than likely warm-blooded, right? Endothermic for those of you who are nerds versus exothermic, which is the cold-blooded. So yeah, I really don't get this. All this is like a big target for like a missile, or like it's you're basically taking the side profile of this creature and making it twice as big, which would help for all kinds of targeting reasons. Like if you've got a missile, like I was mentioning, it's going to have more to lock onto, right? It's going to be a bigger target to hit, so it's going to be easier to hit with the tank shell from the side and whatnot. So I really don't like this. I really think it's retarded. But other than that, I mean, the Swarmling is a pretty standard Zergling. He's got his little raptorial claws. He's got his whatever these claws are. Like, they're not really attached to anything. Like, they don't really have a large muscle base. So what I imagine is, we'll use a different color. There's probably because of the way that they use them in game, there's probably a rather high tension tendon that's running all the way up the back here. And then there's probably some muscle here, so that when this muscle contracts this way, right, then it will force this down. And the way that any lever works, any kid who's taken grade 6 math or whatever, will tell you that this is going to generate a lot of force on this end, versus the minimal force for like a short, high tension or high power muscle. Just to get this thing moving. So I think that's probably what it is. And then there's probably some other muscle group that when it pulls, like say this way, it resets the position, right? So I don't think there's actually much to the musculature here, but whatever. And then there's these things, which, I mean, if you're running through, here, let me just undo a bunch of stuff. What's the hotkey for this? What's the... Is it... Oh, whatever, fuck it. Screw you guys. Somebody tell me. I think it's like Control U or something like that. I don't know. Either way, it's paint, and you guys can deal with it, so whatever. I'm not sure what these are doing here. I mean, they are... We've talked about this before with the Zergling, but these things that come out, they're not a jaw. They're not the derp jaw. What they are is something that's coming off what looks like where the masseter would be. So there's a big muscle here in mammals. It's called the masseter. So if you clench your jaw and touch the very back of your jaw, you'll feel that muscle bulging out. That's involved with chewing. And then there's another one called the temporalis that runs up like this. So, I mean, I'm not sure why this is attached to where the masseter would be. Maybe the masseter would be like over here. The temporalis can run up like that. I know it's getting like really confusing, like one of those football plays or whatever, but just deal with it, guys. Whatever. I've been busy, so this is what you get. So I'm not sure what the purpose of this is, though. Like, imagine you're running through some brush or something. This is going to get caught on all manner of things and create issues. So I'm not sure I really like that. What I do like is just the simple setup of the raptorial arms here. You can see that they've got a nice wide plantigrade foot. So plantigrade is kind of like how humans have that wide foot, just to support, you know, when they rear back, and then they can use these claws to tear things apart, right? And of course they have their nice sharp teeth as well. So I really like that. What I don't necessarily like is these things coming off. I mean, yeah, I could take or leave them. I guess they're armor plates or something, but if you're rearing up and say you're moving this arm in a forward motion, this plate will push back, and unless, I mean, these slide in such a way that this one folds in, say, behind here, they might interfere with each other. So I'm not sure how I feel about those. They're just a stylistic thing, I guess. So not really much function there or whatever. And again, just because we're talking about Zerglings, what I would like to see on the back end of these guys, let's pick a nice color here. Let's do white, sure. Is instead of this flexible tail that we see wiggling all the time and whatever, make it stiff. Make it like a big, solid, long, stiff thing. I know that sounds gross, but whatever. Nice and long. Think about it this way. Very common things like in the Cretaceous, like say Velociraptor. I don't know, any of the theropods. Basically, that's the meat-eating dinosaurs. The ends of their tails, and in fact most of their tails in general, were made in such a way that they were sort of stiff and rod-like to form a counterbalance, so that when the front end is attacking or doing something, the back end balances it over top of this sort of central axis running along the feet, which is pretty sweet. I mean, that's what you probably want if you're going to be jumping and doing whatever Zerglings are doing, right? And then, of course, they derive a lot of their power from this group of muscles that are right here, as well as the ones that are associated with the femur. But there's the muscle attachments on the tail look rather powerful for movement. That was actually recent paper by a paleontologist up at U of A, University of Alberta, where I went. Hooray! All right, so this is the this is the Raptorling, and we notice immediately there is no sail. So the main difference between these guys, obviously, is that this guy can jump up and down cliffs, which I think is pretty cool. I mean, I think the main difference between this and the Zergling model, and I know we should have a Zergling model just here, but whatever, is just the types of wings here. So I'm guessing that this whole brown structure here, let's turn the size down, there we go, that this whole structure here is supposed to be like, oh, well, this gives more power to the wing. I'm not really sure that's the case. I think that that's just more of them just being derps and whatever. What would have been cool is to see if you're doing something for like a jumping creature and whatnot, again, have that nice stiff rod-like tail. Shut up, kitty. You might be able to hear Cheeto in the background. He wants to go outside for an off-leash walk. But anyway, remove these armor plates, get rid of that crap, right? And so then basically what you're left with is this big chunky muscle here, right? So expand upon that. Make it clear that there's, some high tension tendons that run up. Like this would be the equivalent roughly of the Achilles tendon, which, obviously if you cut that bad boy, you're not going to be able to do much walking or jumping or anything. Just make it really clear that they've beefed up the back legs. You don't really need to have all this other crap hanging off of there, especially because these wings now, if you look at them, they're more solid. They've got what looks like fibers running this way, right? That's for strength. Obviously, you get that same collagen fiber kind of deal in pterosaur wings. But unfortunately, what that does is mean that it's not so hot for the previously aforementioned metabolic boosting. So it's kind of a screwed up trade-off, because you obviously want these guys to be as fast as possible and whatnot. And yeah, other than that, it's pretty standard. Oh, excuse me. I mean, again, like this gives us a nice view. Like there's probably a tendon here, and perhaps one up here, if there's, say, a group of muscle here. But even then, the main force for this thing is going to be running laterally along the back there. So, okay. So my analysis here is that the Swarmling, much cooler than the Raptorling, much cooler than the you can tell, obviously, like I like it a lot more because I didn't scribble all over it and describe what a piece of shit it is. I don't know, Blizzard, get your shit together. This doesn't even look cool. This looks retarded. Like, it looks absolutely horrendous. Why is there a stupid sail on it? I mean, I'm actually face palming right now. Alright, and just for fun, okay, since this guy is technically the one to blame, we're going to talk a little bit about how he does what he does. So it seems very clear to me that he kind of nests all of this material like right in here, right? And so what he's doing is, like, this is obviously a Zerg larva or like a fledgling Zerg something or other, right? And you see that he actually is using, I mean, he's using his hands, but a lot of this is coming from like here. So you have like, you see all these like little manipulator arm things. So it makes me think that, you know, somewhere in here you actually have like, it's hard to say, like obviously you've got the material like going in here, and in this area you have like some sort of ability to modify the DNA, but I'm not sure how you're going to do that across something that's got so many cells already. So this guy would have like a lot of different cells, right? Kitty, yeah, you hate him too, don't you? And so this guy, like, it would be much easier to buy if this was like a thing of goo and there wasn't such a strongly multicellular, highly organized creature, right? If it was just like one or two cells, then him directly modifying this guy in here would make more sense, right? So, oops, you guys got to see my desktop there. It's got a Star Destroyer. It's pretty sweet. Anyway, so this just doesn't make sense, and I hate this guy, Abathurr. We're going to talk about him later, so anyway, this has been, you know, the first. We've got a few queued up Anatomy of Starcrafts here, but we're just waiting for our video wench to figure things out and get the internet going more appropriately. All she can do right now is text me, and it's rather frustrating for all of us. So, all right, well, guys, questions, comments, anything like that, put them down into the into the comments below. So, you know, in case you're retarded, those would be located down here. I love this. Kitty. Just leave comments and questions and stuff below. Any insights that you guys have, or any units you want me to start covering as well, because I'm getting sick and tired of waiting for Skype calls to be rendered into videos. So I'm going to do this a little bit more. So in the meantime, also we're going to look at a way to do this with Protoss and Terran stuff as well, featuring Zappy and Elzavris respectively. So, alright guys,